I've always had a passion for being around and learning about animals. When I was younger, going to zoos and animal parks was always a part of my life. I wanted to share my passion with family and friends, so I started working with people that loved animals as much as I did, and my YouTube channel was born.
Welcome back to my animal education series. Today I'm here with Jim at Exotic Archipelago.
Hi.
So, what got you started in the reptile business?
Like most people in it, I was a kid and I was interested in them. I'd go out. My grandparents had a lake house and I would go with them on the weekends and I'd run around looking for turtles and snakes and stuff. And that's kicked it off, and I started working at a pet shop that was near my house, which closed up a long time ago, but it was a real eclectic kind of place. I mean, they sold everything back then. There were no laws to stop them. And so I got exposed to working with everything from raccoons and monkeys to all different kinds of snakes, venomous snakes, all different types of lizards, and I just kind of kept it as a hobby for a long time after that.
And how did this business start?
This evolved from a hobby. It was my animals at home just started, the collection outgrew the house, and I had to make a decision at some point as to whether I was going to scale it back to a smaller hobby or turn it into a business. And reptile shops that had tried to make it in St. Louis always failed, but we had some ideas that we wanted to try to see if that would compensate for some of the downfalls they had run into, and it seemed to have worked. So 21 years or so ago, we bought this building and moved everything in, and we've been growing ever since.
What are some of the more difficult things of running a reptile shop?
It's tricky to say. I mean, animals are always a challenge. You know, you have to getting some animals to breed can be tricky. You know, they're not always as straightforward as others, and of course, then there's always, you know, employee issues and customer issues and things that I deal with almost constantly on a daily basis, you know, and we try to keep up with all that. It's got all the challenges of running any business, but in addition it has all the animal care challenges.
What are some of the ethics of running a reptile shop?
Well, there are a lot of things involved. First and foremost is the animal care. You have to be on top of it all the time. And what has happened with us is that because there aren't a lot of other places for people to take things, we work in conjunction with the Herpetological Society when it comes to things like adoptions and rescues and stuff. So it's two different things going on at the same time. When I was president of the Herp Society, I started their adoption program, but when I opened this place, I was afraid there'd be a conflict. So I dropped out as president and turned it over to someone else. And what happens is when someone calls here to get rid of a pet, we'll tell them, okay, you're calling a pet shop. We're not a rescue. If you give it to us, we may keep it, sell it, give it away, but we don't make any claims about where it's going to go. The Herp Society, on the other hand, our local St. Louis Herpetological Society, is strictly a rescue. So they will take those animals and place them with someone. One of the ethics that we ran into, one of the issues was green iguanas. When I was president of the Herp Society, we got so many of them in every week, I was having trouble finding homes for all of them. So when I opened the shop, we didn't sell them. And I didn't sell them for probably the first 10 or 12 years. Eventually, we didn't see a glut on the market. And then we never had any issues with people owning them. What we had was an issue when there were too many of them around and you couldn't find homes for them. So I spoke to my buddy that's president of the Herp Society, and we said, okay, you can start to sell them. And this applies to a lot of animals, things like large snakes, green iguanas, American alligators, and things like that. If we start to see too many unwanted ones, then we stop selling them. And we give them away as they come in. We place them in proper homes as best we can. So that's one of the ethics of it. Also, there are a lot of laws. It depends on what municipality you're in. We try to tell people, don't break the law. Don't run around with a big boa and scare people with it. That's unethical, and that ruins this hobby for everybody. So, you know, we try to keep an eye on that. We don't, you know, we're not law enforcement, we don't turn anybody in, but we will talk to people and encourage them, do this right. If you keep venomous animals, keep your mouth shut. Get the permit that you need, and don't tell people about it, don't brag about it, because at any given point, laws can be enacted, and they have been all over the country, to end this hobby immediately. They can find a reason to say, not only can you not have venomous snakes or big or whatever we consider dangerous, you can no longer own reptiles, period. So we're constantly trying to police ourselves and make sure that the animals get proper care. And like I've said, that's our #1 priority. The only thing that comes before our customers is literally the animals. We get animals in all the time that people drop off and say, my kid quit taking care of it, he doesn't want it, and by the time we get it, it looks like they quit taking care of it months ago. So we're challenged with trying to get the animal's health back, and it's a crapshoot. Sometimes we can pull them out of whatever problem they're having, and other times we can't. We work in conjunction with one of the best reptile vets in the country, Dan Wentz, who's here in St. Louis, and he'll come in and help us, and we know how to give injections and care for things. So that's kind of the ethics end of this, that everybody needs to stay on top of that and police themselves and do a good job with it.
And then you always have those parents who want to get a new reptile pet for their kid, and they've got a baby iguana,
right?
And then when it grows to like 3 or 4 feet, they're like,
it's too big.
This is not what I plan on buying.
Exactly, and that's what we try to tell people. When they come in and they want an iguana as a pet for their kid, we'll tell them it's not a good idea, and here's why. And we explain to them it gets really big, it needs a big enclosure, it needs special lighting and everything, and it eventually develops in the size of an animal that has a bite that's you know, it's a serious bite. So we'll tell them, why don't you consider one of two things, either a gecko of some type, like a leopard gecko or crested gecko, or a bearded dragon. A bearded dragon is the most popular thing we sell in here by far. So we'll steer them in the right direction. And that's another thing about ethics. Even if we have a bunch of iguanas and we're out of bearded dragons, I'll tell them just wait. Don't get anxious and buy something you're going to end up sorry for. And that's what we try to be, you know, to guide people along like that.
And also people with like alligators, and it's
right.
A baby, like, oh, look how cute it is. And then it's the myth,
yep.
Oh, it's just going to grow to the size of its enclosure, yep. Which is not even close to
exactly, and that is a myth. And we get people that ask about all the time. They ask about that all the time, about will it stay small because of the enclosure, and it won't, obviously. And when it comes to American alligators, there are a lot of different crocodilians available for sale. American alligators, if you're going to own a crocodilian, are one of the best. The only drawback is that they do get big. And when they get big, you've got to find a home for them. So far, we've been able to get alligator farms and places to take them back when they get too big. And it's kind of like if you went to a farm and the farmer gave you a cow to raise up it from a calf to a cow, and when it got that big, you gave it back to them, and then you could, it goes to wherever it needs to go, So that's one of the things, and we keep an eye on that. If we get too many unwanted alligators, we're not going to sell them anymore. And that's just people, but we're always up front with people. American alligators are one of the only crocodilians that can actually be tamed down. On the other hand, when they're 5 or 6 feet long, even if they're tamed, I would never trust them. So we explain all that.
Huge mouthful of teeth and a very powerful
That's
tail.
right, and they've got a good bite. If they get a hold of you, you're in trouble. Baby alligators, that's not the case. And alligators are actually very easy to care for. So they can make them great. That's like I always tell people. Baby alligators make great pets, and big alligators, not so much. But we've had customers who've had some that are 10 or 12 feet long, and they do a great job. The animal's very well cared for, and they're very safe with it, and everything works out.
It's about research and making sure that you can care for it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it takes.
So since you do a lot of breeding here, what are some challenges that you encounter when breeding?
It varies. Some things are real simple and straightforward. I always work a lot with colubrids, and they're very seasonal. Like right now, it's November. They're all in hibernation until around the last part of March or so. And just by putting them in hibernation, if they got good weight on and they come out of hibernation nice and healthy and strong, then they'll reproduce pretty much on their own. You just pair them up. There aren't too many tricks that you need to use to get them to breed. On the other hand, there are some things that can be a challenge. I'm working with blackhead pythons, and I've gotten them to breed a couple of times, but then they start to lose weight, so you've got to let them have a year or so off. And then I've given we only have the one female right now. I've given her 2 years off now, so we may try to breed her again this year. Some things are challenging as far as just getting to breed in the first place. You might have to miss the cage or let the cage get more dry. Sometimes using multiple males will work. On other species like blackhead pythons, reticulated pythons, you can't use multiple males. They'll kill each other. Green tree pythons are like that. So each thing presents its own challenge. But if you do your research and you get with people that have been successful at it, then you can usually meet all those requirements.
And especially as the snake gets older, it's probably more challenging.
That's been a problem with myself because I've been in this so long. My collection of colubrids was numbering up over 1,000 adults that I worked with. And then what happened was they started to get old. I saw production drop. At one point I was producing well over 3,000 babies, and it dropped to 2,800 and 2,400. And right now I'm right around 2,000. So what I've had to do is get rid of some of the adults and replace them. The tricky thing is you don't know what to do with these. If I sell them as a pet, I got to make sure people are clear that this is an old animal and it really shouldn't be bred. But then I got to trust that they're not going to breed it. because it's cruel at that point. It's gonna hurt them more than anything. I can't justify just euthanizing an animal because it's no longer a breeder. That's not right either. So I've tried to find avenues where I can give them to teachers and different people like that, and I can give them away to them and tell them, you know, give this guy a good home for the last few years of his life. And in the meantime, I have to raise up all new babies, which takes 3-4 years to do that.
What are some of your most common animals out there? You said the bearded dragon earlier.
Bearded dragons are the most popular, and ball pythons. Ball python hobby exploded after albino ball pythons came out. And now, excuse me, now it's gotten to the point where, you know, there's so many morphs of different ball pythons, and corn snakes are this way too, that you literally couldn't count them all. I mean, there's just that many combinations. So that makes the hobby really fun and really interesting and fuels a lot of enthusiasm in it. As far as for pets, the most popular thing are bearded dragons. As far as snakes, it's ball pythons. And then leopard geckos, crested geckos, those are all good staple pet shop type items.
They're very beginner pets.
Excuse me. Right, they're great for beginners, and they're easy to care for. As long as you set them up right, you should be successful with them. And they're not expensive to set up, they don't get too big, so those are always the most popular ones.
And as I'm walking around the shop, I'm seeing all this Alice Cooper merchandise.
Right.
So could you please explain that to me?
Right. Well, what happened is I provide movies. I'm in the Screen Actors Guild, and I provide animals for movies, TV commercials, photo shoots, and stuff like that. At one point, I stumbled into this situation with Alice Cooper, the rock star. He comes out on stage every concert. One of the big things is he started shock rock. One of the ways he did it was to come out on stage with a snake. So he needed someone to provide him a snake for all of the United States concerts. So I do that, and I get to hang out with him and whatever band he tours with, and go to all these concerts, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's really a blast. He's a great guy to work with. And I tell you, the snake thing works. For people like us, we're around snakes all the time. It's not a big shock. It's nothing big. But when I'm out in the audience and I watch him come out with the snake on, and I see people's reactions, I know exactly why he does it, because they just go crazy. They can't believe the thing is real. They don't know whether to run or what to do. So he nailed it. It still is got a lot of shock value to it. It's really fun.
So, how did Alice Cooper find you for the snakes?
Well, it's interesting. A guy came into the shop whenever I was gone. It was my day off. The girl called me at home and said, someone wants a snake for an entertainer. He won't say who it is or what it is. And I've had some people use some things for want to use animals for some sketchy things, and I blow them off. I'm like, we're family oriented. I'm not interested. If he won't say who he's working for, then I'm not interested. So I told her, just tell him forget it. And the next day I came in and she gave me his card, and I threw his card away. And I said, I'm not interested. If he won't come clean with who he's working with, I got a feeling it's kind of unethical, or it's a little too racy for us, so I'm out. And I threw his card away, and he luckily came back in. And I saw him on my video surveillance system, and I said, well, he's a nice looking guy, dressed nice, professional. So I went out and started talking to him, and he kept me talking for over an hour. Wouldn't tell me who he was working with. And I was about ready to tell him, I've got to get back to work, buddy. Let's just forget about it. He said, let me make a call, and he come back in, and he told me, he said, listen, you need to show up in Elizabeth, Indiana in about a week. Bring 3 or 4 snakes. Don't be high, don't be drunk, don't bring anybody with you. You'll be working with Alice Cooper. And I laughed, and I said, you mean like there's a cover band for that 60s dude? And he said, no, this is him. He was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he's got a new album out. He's kicking off a new tour. And you're going to be providing him with snakes for his concert. So from there, I went down to Elizabeth. They've been great to work with. These guys are like family now. I mean, the band and the roadies and everybody are really cool. I got to meet tons of other rock stars and stuff with them. And we've been doing this maybe 8 years with it. And it's been the most fun as far as those little sideline things in the reptile business that I've done so far.
I'm finishing the video here at a park near where I live, because I started to feel really lightheaded and wasn't able to finish the video there. So I'd like to thank Jim from Exotic Arc for letting me interview him. And if you guys enjoyed this week's episode, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my Instagram @ColeShirk. As always, I'll see you next week.